I wasn't thinking about the future of rap because we was always battling everybody. We was always fighting.
Yeah. All of the greatest classic records were made when we were just trying to make the hottest joints.
Yeah. The Bridge, Eric B's President.
Nobody beats
Nobody
the Biz.
beats the Biz. Roxanne Shantae's Roxanne's Revenge.
Beat Biter.
All his earlier joints.
All my earlier joints.
100%.
Yeah.
So
all of those were made in the Bridge.
In Queensbridge, in my
was that
apartment.
on a 4-track, 8-track?
It was on a 4-track, reel to reel.
I brag about that to this day. Like, you don't understand what dudes did with a 4-track.
Because we had to be dope, because there was no tracks to be whacked.
You had to have, yeah. There was no ad-lib tracks. You had one joint to do your verses.
Word up. And, and you had to be dope. And my speaker was in the window, too. So if people wasn't dancing, walking by, it was whack.
Legendize.
What is the most important element to a song?
I mean, for me, it's about getting them drums right. Because I don't care what instrument you play, the wrong snare can make a dope sample sound not right. Mm-hmm. And the same thing with the kick. Think about our ancestors; they communicated with the drums, so it's boom, boom, pap, boom, 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 pap.
Now, your production has contributed to 3 of the greatest hip hop albums in history, from Biggie, Jay, and Nas. Are there any artists that you haven't worked with that you still desire to work with?
Man, I said it before. I wish I could have worked with X. Rest in peace, DMX. I like, man. I actually like the baby, but I would still keep it in boom bap mode because I watched him freestyle on a couple of things that was more about our era of beats, and I was like, oh, okay.
Legendize. Finally, after like 6 months of calling this dude almost every day, Grand Wizard Tony D invited me to his house in Seagate. And when I went to his house, I knocked on the door, he let me in. And there was Grandmaster D from Houdini and Jam Master J.
Oh, wow.
And they took me into the basement. And I remember going into the basement going, man, I'm about to get robbed by 3 of the greatest DJs of all time.
Wow.
This is incredible. This is going to be a great story. Wow. And I'd never seen a studio before, especially not a makeshift studio. And they turned on a little light and they sat me down. And Jay was right in front of me and Grandmaster D was to my left and Tony D was to my right.
Wow.
And Tony pointed me and told me to rap. And I rapped my ass off 2 minutes straight, like just rapping my ass off. And then there was silence, dead silence. And Jam Master Jay leaned back with that heavy laugh and that sigh. And he said, man, if white boys start rhyming like this, we're finished.
Legendize.
Me and Vin grew up 3 blocks away from each other. So Vin used to be breakdancing, and I would actually be the music supplier for them to practice breakdancing while they were out on the sidewalks. I would be up on my son porch supplying the back music. So I'll be up there practicing and they breakdancing to it. So one day I just said, you know what, Vin, why don't you come over here and let's just mess around. You beatbox or whatever, and I'll try scratching and let's try something. And when it came time for that talent show, that was the first thing that I went to and said, Vin, why don't you do this talent show with me? And then we started rehearsing for it and everything. And we both just realized maybe it'll make it dope if we brought in an MC. And Vin said, I know the perfect person. We should go and get Tiny.
Legendize.
As soon as I figured out how to make any kind of money, like I literally would split every dollar in half. 50 Cent went to records and 50 Cent went to being fresh. Being fresh became a thing like for me. And I just always wanted to be fresh. It's a real thing for me. It's not a sneaker thing. You know what I'm saying? So what you see these kids doing is not what I'm into. I'm into being fresh. So like I just don't want a bunch of fly sneakers. I want the sneakers to go with something. So that if the hat don't hook up properly with it, if you ain't putting it together right, you killed your sneakers.
Legendize.
First of all, because we're talking about 1989.
Okay,
right?
By 89.
So what did you use to even create and chop up these samples?
Well, when I first started sampling, I was using the 808 to trigger certain.
Using the 808.
An 808 drum machine.
For all the producer heads, right? The rolling 808.
Rolling 808.
Right?
Now the toms, the low tom, the mid tom, and the high tom, I would use as a trigger.
Hold on a minute. This is where you want to pause so you can take these notes down because I know you're going to go back.
It's rocket science.
You're going to look it up. Okay, go ahead.
It's really rocket science. And it's like we would use the 808 to trigger the samples and the samplers. So as the dots went by, we'd have to hit the right dot to make the
Right.
sample loop correctly
Right.
to make everything stay in time. So it was really, really, really rocket science.
Legendize.
So, Kane, you had a production ear.
Oh yeah.
Where was your musical influence? Like, what were you listening to in the house?
Well, I mean, I listened to a lot of James Brown and the Meters.
What's a Big Daddy Kane Saturday? You just wake the fuck up, you put your shit on. What you listening to in your house, man? Your playlist, man.
I mean, it could be Brothers Gonna Work It Out from Willie Hutch, Marvin Gaye, If I Should Die Tonight, the OJ's Help.
Yeah, I get a lot of my soul roots from my stepfather, Frank. He used to take us in the car. We used to like drive upstate, but he had them OJs on, something from MFSB. You get what I'm saying? So, and those are the songs we used to sing along to. Don't ask me why. I listen to those songs now. They're kind of depressing when I think about it.
Hey.
You know, when I think about it, I'm like, damn, what was we going through?
Shit, them songs make the wine taste better than me.
There you go.
Legendize.
I listen to classic rock, bro. Queen. I'm a Queen fan. I definitely listen to my Rolling Stones. And I'll call it therapeutic because it takes you back to a time before the bullshit. Before everything got hectic, I always think about when I used to go upstate with my Fresh Air Fun family, learn how to ski, learn how to swim, learn how to listen to classic rock because that's what they was listening to.
This is why we're kindred spirits, because that's how it happened for me. Because I went to Fresh Air Fun. I used to stay in Arcadia, New York. There was no black stations.
Yeah.
This is when I fell in love with like the Police
all day
and Culture Club, and especially Europe in the early 80s. They were doing black music.
100%.
Though they were white people. Hall and Oates. All right, let me just say this. If you're a hip hop fan and you don't respect other genres of music, you're not going to be a great hip hop artist because there are no genres. It's just good music and shit music. That's it.
100%.
Legendize.
When I was a shorty, I heard that you and Shan were performing at the Roxy. I went, and Shan had this like performance, like he was like Frank Sinatra, just walking back and forth real cool on stage, and he was doing the cocaine joint. And at the end, when you said, "Don't you know that her name was," and it was cocaine, the crowd erupted.
Legendize.
How did Jay-Z even hear that beat from you? How did that even happen?
Kid Capri heard it somehow, and so he asked me for it.
So Jay got a hold of it, and then he reached out to you, or how did that happen?
At the time, Latifah had the track also.
It's one of those. Okay.
Damon Dash and Shakim,
right from Flavor Unit Management,
they had to, get us somebody to get the track. So Damon did it first.
Legendize.
Well, I could say this. I mean, we ain't know what type of history we was making when we was making it. I could just tell you that right now. We just was just doing things that we loved, having fun.
Yes.
So,
when we found out we could make money at what we were having fun, that was a plus.
That definitely was a plus. When I found out about publishing, I was like, oh, okay, we get money off of this too?
Legendize.
My house back in the day, it was soul, it was MFSB, it was like hard black music.
Okay,
it was
okay.
Motown.
It was that soulful.
We had a hi-fi. We had a hi-fi.
You had a hi-fi?
We had a hi-fi. So the bass
not
was
Wi-Fi.
No, we had hi-fi.
Hi-fi.
We had a hi-fi.
Legendize.
When I was in middle school, it was around the time my friends' government names were all changing. And they were all getting knowledge of self. And I was this Jewish kid who thought he was going to be a rabbi. And I just asked a lot of questions. Yo, why did you change your names? And what do you mean the 1 to 10s? And why is it so important? They were like, why are you always searching for the answers? Why are you always searching for the answers? And I was with a homegirl of mine. She was like, oh, that'd be dope. That should be your name, Search. Like, you should write that. Because I was thinking about tagging and graffiti. Right. So I started writing my name, Search, but I never really liked it because it looked like a word. And my homeboy, Kevon Moore, for my 16th birthday, got me my first nameplate belt buckle. He got me the $35 joint, but he tried to squeeze in Search into the 5 joint, and the A fell out. And when the A fell out, I'm like, damn, that looks dope. That looks fresh.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how it became Search. So that's how my name became MC Search.
Legendize.
So tell me about your first time working with B.I.G.
With Big, when he was wrapping up his album and updating it, he was just like, yo, I need that one gutter joint for the streets. And I said, look, just come up to D&D and I'll see what I can come up with. I had those little stabs. It's just one note, tuned it on all the keys. When Big got there, he was like, yo, switch it up on the hook. So that's why I just said, and he was like, that's it. He cut it real quick, didn't write it down. I remember 2 or 3 days after I did it for him, me and Gordon are heading back to BK, and a car pulls up to us right on the Brooklyn Bridge, and we hear unbelievable blasts, and we roll up on him like, yo, where you get that from? He said, oh, it's on Hot 97, Flex is playing it. And that's when I was like, oh, okay, this is going to rock. And they rocked that whole summer, too.
Legendize.
I always say I'm a combination of Run, LL, Slick Rick, KRS-One, Coogee Rap, Big Daddy Kane, Rakim. Like I studied these guys like in Chuck D. So when I get my militant side, Anthony Armageddon on them, that's my Chuck D coming around.
Legendize.
Talk to me about how you orchestrated the bridge.
Well, it all happened. We was getting together one night before the annual bridge party. They had like a party in the park, so they had the stage out there. They had bands that would come out. So I said, Shan, they rocking tomorrow in the park. I'm the engineer. Let's make some theme music for in between the bands.
Oh, you wanted a theme
I
song
just
from
wanted a theme song,
Queensbridge.
right? I wanted the Queensbridge theme song. So he didn't really know the history of Queensbridge. So I was like, look, to be honest, Jappy Jap, Larry Ladd. So I told him the history of my block.
Right.
So he's, the history of the 41 side.
Legendize. I play with a certain kind of energy. Like I am literally all energy when I DJ. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Can I cut and scratch? Sure I can. Can I mix? Sure I can. But if I am not applying energy to it, it means nothing.
Yeah,
so there's DJs who can cut and scratch better than me. There's guys who may be able to mix records better than me. They don't put energy in the mix. If you don't put energy in the mix, it means nothing. Legendize.
My influences were definitely Run DMC because I love the arrogance and the stage presence and the cockiness of Run.
Yeah.
And then it's like Chuck D. I loved his militancy and how he taught us about our history and taught us not to take shit from the system, And then ultimately, my guy is KRS-One. He's my favorite rapper, hands down. He's my top 5, dead or alive, everything. Because KRS, he definitely had those stage skills, the way he projected on the mic and controlled the crowd, and he always had crowd control. So this is where I get that from, the crowd control. KRS, he was conscious, he was lyrical, he had an incredible stage show, but at the same time, him and his BDP crew, if they had beef, they could run right through you.
Legendize.